Welcome to another one of our old house remodeling videos, and in this video I will provide you with some wall framing examples for extending the length of a window. And this is commonly referred to as popping out a window, and I will provide you with 4 examples of it, starting with our first example where we will extend the height of the pop out all the way to the top underneath the overhang and even with the bottom, and you could always have the concrete foundation pop out here also. And keep in mind that you can use a combination of these to design a variety of different pop outs. For example, I could have this design here with the pop out section going all the way down, or this one here where it would go underneath the eaves in the same way we frame this one. So let's go ahead and zoom in on this one here, and I will provide you with some nailing ideas. And here are a few different ideas where we're using a block at the bottom, and all of these blocks will be nailed in this manner here. And you can stagger them, you could run them in a row, or you can use some building hardware like this wall framing anchor here. And you can see here where if we nail the block into the floor, the joist, or the wall framing, and then end nail this stud and this stud into the block, that's going to help reduce or even prevent these boards from sagging or separating from the building somehow. And another thing you could do is eliminate the blocks. You might even be able to just toe nail all of the lumber into the other framing members. And that might include installing a toenail or an angled nail on both sides. And don't forget the different types of building hardware that you might be able to use also, or a combination of those different types of hardware. And if you're going to install stucco and metal lath over the wall framing, then that will often create a stronger structural connection. And don't forget, these blocks can go anywhere. I could nail this block into the wall framing stud here, and then nail this plate here, or the sill framing plate, to the block. And you can see here where something like this could prevent this section from sagging down or moving. And that's the main thing you're going to want to consider when building a pop-out window like this. And even more blocks at the top and framing hardware. And don't forget to install your backing, and the backing might need to be wider. Make sure that you install enough backing depending upon what type of materials you're going to use to finish this area. For example, if I'm going to put a 2x2 in the corner and then some siding trim on this corner, then it might not be a bad idea to extend or add some more material here. And of course, I'm pointing to this board here, not the block, and here. So this might require another piece of backing so that we could have something to nail our siding into after we install our trim. And a lot of times when we are remodeling a project like this, we can use the same window if we want to, by lining all of these materials up with the existing opening. And if you are going to install new windows, make sure that the sizes don't need to be modified, because some of these openings might need to be smaller or larger. In our next example, we are going to angle the top of this. This will be a 45-degree angle on the top and on the bottom, and square on the edges. And again, make sure that your trim is going to work for the areas around the window. These areas might need, the sides and the top might need to be larger or smaller to make sure that everything is going to work out. And here we are using some flat anchor supports to connect the pop out to the existing house. And usually these supports will go underneath the backing. You can put the backing on after you install the framing anchors. And even though I only have them installed in a few spots, you can install these on the other sides, and feel free to use more of them if you think it's going to work better. And another thing I should mention is that any modifications like this to an existing building might require local building authority approvals or building permits. And here you can see where we've simply angled the sideboards and then shaped a piece of lumber for the top and the bottom. And don't forget that something like this might require some type of waterproofing membrane at the top to prevent this area from leaking, because it could get a lot of water. And if that happens, you could end up with some water leaks. So consider that as an alternative when you're working on something like this. And even if you don't do it on the angled one, you need to make sure that you do it on the flat one here. That is not going to have any slope and could allow for water to accumulate in this area. And in this example here, we've created a pop-out window where the sides are the same sizes or the same measurement. And in order to do that, we need to allow for our plywood, which would include compensating for the thickness of the plywood or deducting it from your overall measurement. So for example, if we have 4 inches here and 4 inches here, we're going to need to make this 3.5 inches. And then when we add our 1/2 inch of plywood to the side, that's going to give us 4 inches. And of course, another design for popping out the window, along with another way to tie this part of the pop out to the existing wall framing. And this right here would be one of my preferred methods. And to do it, you're simply going to nail the plywood to the existing wall framing stud and to the side of the pop out. And then after it's firmly secured, you can install your backing. And you could always extend or shape the plywood or OSB if needed, if your backing might require a little more support or nailing, where you can see we don't have it here. You would extend the length of the plywood down to at least here, or make the backing a little shorter. And something like this could actually be prefabricated, and then someone could hold it in place while you attach it to the existing building. And you could always use a spacer here to firmly secure these two boards together and prevent them from moving, along with another example, and one that is used often. Next up, let's go ahead and build a pop-out with larger materials. We're going to use 2x6 instead of 2x4, and we're going to make it a little wider, and of course provide you with some details on how you can finish the top by adding some shaped blocks along with some new frieze blocks or rafter blocks. And if we go to the other side, I will provide you with another way of creating a detail here, along with trying to make it look like it was part of the original construction. Now, another thing you might be able to do will be to line your new wall framing studs, or one side of the existing wall framing stud, up with the other side of the existing wall framing stud, and then nail a piece of plywood to each of them to create a nice structural connection. And that can be done over here as well, along with under the window. And here you can see how everything is going to get nailed together. You're simply going to end nail the piece of plywood into the existing wall framing stud and the new wall framing stud. And you could always nail this part of the plywood to the wall framing stud first, and then slide it into place and then nail it to the existing wall framing stud, if that would be easier for you. And here we have the same measurement for the bottom as we do for each side, but not the top. And keep in mind that you could always extend the bottom of this or shape it at a 45-degree angle, like we did in the other examples. And don't forget to install your backing. And you could use this method here, or we could install some full-length framing studs and finish the side like this. And again, you can always do something like this to both sides, or do what we did on the other side to this side also. Don't get confused and build it, hey, wait a minute, I got to use this on this side and this on this side. That's not the case. This is one way to do it. This is another way to do it. Now I'm going to finish the video by removing the rest of the house to provide you with a different view, just in case some of the framing members blended into each other. And you can see here where we needed to shape this wall framing stud to slide under the block and under the eave. And of course, this will depend upon where the wall framing stud ends up and the design of your overhang, because sometimes you're going to have a flat soffit. And of course, that's going to make your job a lot easier because you're going to be dealing with 90-degree angles. And as always, if you have any questions at all about this type of project or maybe some different design ideas, feel free to leave those in the comment area.